players like Deja Kelly and others that want to get this thing done and want to play games. So for you to say everybody's on the same page was a complete lie. Now, here's Adam Silver. NBA Commissioner Adam Silver said Tuesday night he is tracking WNBA collective bargaining sessions very closely, and that he and Deputy Commissioner Mark Tatum would both be willing to join the prolonged negotiations to finalize a deal. That means when Mark Tatum is getting involved,
The NBA commissioner just made his move in the WNBA's contract standoff. Adam Silver didn't just offer to help with negotiations, he laid down the law. Both sides need to find middle ground and get games on the schedule. This sounds exactly like what Caitlin Clark demanded 2 weeks back when she split from the Players Association. Now basketball's biggest power broker is throwing his weight behind her stance while league founders scramble to protect their winter project.
This October comment, Silver also said he has great relationships with many of the players and believes the sides are on course for a solution. The current 40-day extension ends January 9th, and that date is fastly approaching. Okay, he says, I remain optimistic we'll get something done, but whether that means I'm physically sitting at the table for the negotiation, Silver said. And again, I speak for Mark as well. We have been involved with this league for 3 decades. In essence, I care enormously about it and want it to be successful, and I want the players to feel fairly treated as well. And I realize there's been a disconnect, especially over the last few months in these negotiations. So
Here's why Silver jumping in changes everything. He didn't dance around the issues. He said compromise has to happen from both sides. Then he mentioned WNBA players earning way more money because the league is exploding with success. But notice what he left out completely. Zero talk about that. 50-50 revenue split. The union keeps pushing. Silver's focused on actual dollar amounts going up, not some percentage-based system. He's basically telling the union their main demand is dead on arrival. The calendar matters big time here. Silver dropped these comments December 17th during NBA Cup Finals in Vegas. Current deal runs out January 9th. 3 weeks to bridge what insiders call a massive gap. Players want 30% of league money. WNBA's offering 15%. Silver just told everyone to meet halfway while completely rejecting how players want to calculate their cut.
That's what we want and how we feel. And now let's get to the actual video so we can get more dialogue of what Breanna Stewart had to say. They trying to hardball. The owners aren't going to give in to all this nonsense. They're trying to hardball, these players are. And at the end of the day, Adam Silver is with Caitlin Clark. Y'all need to compromise and get this damn deal done and stop playing games.
Hey, Stewie. Good to see you. I had 2 questions. The first, Adam Silver spoke ahead of the Cup and said that if necessary, he'd be up for coming to the bargaining table, him and Mark Tatum. I'm just wondering, do you think that would be beneficial? Would there be value to having Adam's presence at the bargaining table? What are your thoughts there?
Check out Breanna Stewart's reaction and you'll see everything. She admits what they're doing right now isn't moving the needle anywhere. Translation, the Players Association's tough guy approach crashed and burned. They walked away from their contract back in October thinking the league would panic about revenue sharing. Instead, they've blown through 2 deadline extensions, watched the league announce new teams without asking them, and now they're staring at the NBA commissioner personally joining these talks. Stewart says she'd welcome Adam Silver at the negotiating table, but listen to her exact words. She wants everyone to understand what players want and how they're feeling. That's not someone who feels confident about their position. That's someone hoping Silver will lean on owners to cave. Problem is, Silver already showed where he stands. He's not coming to force any 50-50 split. He's coming to force a deal that keeps games happening.
What we're doing right now isn't really getting us anywhere, so if that means that Adam and Mark need to come to the table, we're more than happy to have that, and just making sure everybody understands what we want and how we feel, and realizing that both things can be true together. You know, everybody can agree and get what they want out of this, but there has to be some I don't know, mutual, some things in common happening first. So yeah, if Adam wants to come, I would love to have him.
This is where things get messy for the players. Stewart says both sides can win and everyone can get what they're after, but then she adds there has to be something mutual happening first. Think about what that actually means. The Players Association spent 2 solid months calling revenue sharing completely non-negotiable. They posted social media content making fun of Silver's October comments about actual dollars versus percentages. They turned this into some battle for fairness and equality. Now their biggest spokesperson is publicly admitting compromise means everyone gives up something. That's backing down hard from the union's public position. It also creates major problems for players like Brianna Stewart and Nafisa Collier, who started Unrivaled because the longer these talks drag out, the more obvious it becomes. They're not fighting equally for all players.
Obviously was announced, and the season is going to run from fall to April, which is in direct competition with Unrivaled. What were your immediate thoughts when you heard about Project B? And what's the long-term answer for the landscape of women's basketball? Is it to have one premier league? Is it to continue developing all of these leagues? Like, what is truly the answer? What is the ideal world for the women's basketball landscape?
Yeah, I mean, I think my immediate thoughts when I saw Project B, I was kind of like, well, they saw what worked. You know, they saw the success that we had here at Unrivaled, and they, you know, they wanted to be a part of that in their own way and try to do it. But at the same time, knowing, you know, what we're doing here is really special.
This moment exposes the real split happening behind the scenes. Stewart gets asked about Ice Cube's new 3-on-3 league that runs fall through April. That timing puts it head-to-head with Unrivaled's winter schedule. Watch Stewart's response carefully. She says, Ice Cube's project saw what worked at Unrivaled and wanted their own piece in their own way. Then she switches to talking about how special Unrivaled is because of ownership stakes and resources and keeping players in one city. But here's what she completely skips over. She won't admit Ice Cube's schedule actually works better with the WNBA season. She won't mention players who want to stay overseas, then return for a full WNBA season, now have that choice. She just brushes it off as copying and redirects to Unrivaled's advantages. That's not honest analysis, that's straight up promotion, and it shows the conflict of interest that's been driving these negotiations from day one.
But just making sure the resources, people are staying in one city. Yeah, we'll have like a tour stop in Philly this year, but making sure that we're prioritizing players and their bodies and their health. And as for a long-term solution, I don't know the answer, because it's like now you have all these options. You have Unrivaled, you have WNBA potentially happening in its normal season.
Listen to this part one more time. Stewart says if the WNBA season doesn't fit together with everything else, then nothing can work together. So there needs to be a world where everyone agrees, but then she admits they're nowhere close to that yet. And right now, her focus stays on Unrivaled. That's the entire problem, wrapped up in one answer. The Players Association supposedly represents every WNBA player, but the players running those negotiations are also running a competing business that benefits from shorter WNBA seasons and needs those winter months protected. Caitlin Clark saw right through this 3 weeks ago. She said players need to compromise because games have to get played. The message was crystal clear. Some players are putting their side businesses ahead of the league that actually pays their salaries. Commissioner Kathy Engelbert claimed every player was united on this. Complete lie. Players like Dejanai Carrington and others backed Clark's position publicly. Now Adam Silver is stepping in because talks stalled exactly because of this conflict.
At the league office, Silver said ahead of NBA Cup final in Las Vegas, I talked to the people who are at the negotiating table on a daily basis, and I've said before, we, the NBA, WNBA collective, acknowledge that our players deserve to be paid significantly more than they have so far based on the increased success of the league, and it's just a question now of finding a meeting of the minds in terms of what is a fair deal. It's going to require...
Here's what comes next, and it's not pretty for the union. Silver said both he and Deputy Commissioner Mark Tatum are ready to join these negotiations. When Mark Tatum gets involved, the NBA is treating this like a serious business emergency. Tatum handles league operations and global strategy. He doesn't waste time on routine contract talks. He shows up when deals are about to blow up and the league needs to protect major investments. The WNBA is right in the middle of historic expansion. Golden State joins next season. Toronto and Portland come in 26. The league just locked up new media contracts worth $2.2 billion over 11 years starting in 25. They absolutely cannot afford work stoppages or player drama during this growth explosion, but they also cannot set precedent where players run the whole operation, which is exactly what 50-50 revenue sharing would mean for a league still losing money. So Silver is coming to force a solution, not to explore options or brainstorm ideas, to force a compromise both sides can swallow and move forward. That compromise will definitely include major salary bumps for players, probably better travel situations and upgraded benefits. Maybe even some revenue sharing tied to profit targets instead of total revenue. What it absolutely will not include is the Players Association's demand for 30% of revenue no matter what the league's finances look like. And here's why this matters specifically for Caitlin Clark. She broke from the union because she understood this reality perfectly. WNBA growth is real, but fragile as glass. The league needs to capitalize on this exact moment with maximum games and maximum exposure. Anything that threatens the season or creates bad headlines kills that growth instantly. Clark gets it because she's literally the one driving the growth. Her games averaged 1.2 million viewers this season. League average without her was 400,000. She's not being selfish, demanding compromise. She's being realistic about where actual leverage exists. Silver sees the exact same picture. That's why his comments specifically mentioned increased success and absolute dollar increases. He's acknowledging players deserve bigger paychecks because the league is growing, but he's also making crystal clear that growth gets measured in dollars, not percentages. The WNBA brought in roughly $200 million in revenue this season. 30% of that equals $60 million split among 144 players. That's $417,000 per player on average. Except the league also has operating costs, team expenses, expansion investments, and facility upgrades. The math completely falls apart at 30%. It barely works at 15% given current financial structure. Silver knows this because the NBA went through identical evolution decades ago. NBA didn't reach 50-50 revenue sharing until the league was wildly profitable, with decades of financial stability behind it. WNBA is in year 28 and just started turning the corner on basic viability. Demanding NBA-level revenue splits right now is like demanding a mansion when you just moved out of your parents' garage. But the Players Association painted themselves into a corner by making this about equality and fairness instead of economics. They turned it into a gender issue rather than a business issue. Now they can't back down without looking like they sold out completely. That's why Kathy Engelbert lied about player unity. She needed to maintain the illusion everyone was together because once that cracks, the entire strategy collapses instantly, except it already cracked wide open. Caitlin Clark cracked it first, then players who actually want to play basketball cracked it further. Now Adam Silver is about to completely shatter it by forcing both sides to accept reality. Reality is WNBA players absolutely deserve more money. Reality is also the league cannot afford to pay them based on revenue percentages that ignore profitability completely. Both things are true simultaneously, and compromise means accepting both truths at once. Watch what unfolds over these next 3 weeks. The Players Association will either accept a deal with significant raises but no revenue share, or they'll watch Adam Silver and Mark Tatum walk into that room and impose a framework neither side loves but both sides can survive with. Because that's what actual compromise looks like. Not everyone getting what they want, everyone getting something they can live with, so the league moves forward. Breanna Stewart said her focus right now is unrivaled. That tells you everything about why these negotiations hit a wall. The players who should be most invested in maximizing WNBA growth are instead focused on their side project. The players who are invested in WNBA growth, like Caitlin Clark, are demanding compromise. And the league commissioner is backing Clark while preparing to force a resolution. This isn't about right or wrong anymore. It's about who understands this exact moment in history. The WNBA has momentum for the first time ever. That momentum is driven primarily by one player bringing casual fans into a league they ignored for decades. Those fans don't care about contract negotiations or revenue-sharing formulas. They care about watching Caitlin Clark play basketball. If these negotiations cause a shortened season, delayed start, or any disruption to that experience, those casual fans disappear as fast as they showed up. That's the real leverage here. That's why Silver is stepping in. That's why he's backing Clark's position. Because the absolute worst outcome for WNBA growth is a labor fight that reminds casual fans exactly why they didn't watch women's basketball before Clark arrived on the scene. The league cannot afford that regression. Players cannot afford it either, even if some don't realize it yet. So the question becomes, will the Players Association accept compromise before Silver imposes one? Or will they force his hand and risk looking like they put their off-season league ahead of the main product? Because that's the narrative being built right now. And once that story takes hold, it doesn't matter what the actual contract terms end up being. The damage is permanent. January 9th is 3 weeks away. Clock is ticking loud. Adam Silver just made it clear he's not letting this drag into the season. One way or another, there will be a deal signed. Only question is whether players accept it voluntarily or have it shoved down their throats. Based on Breanna Stewart's comments, they're starting to realize they don't have the leverage they thought they had. Now we'll see if they're smart enough to take the win that's sitting on the table instead of holding out for the win they dreamed about. What do you think happens when Silver and Tatum sit down at that negotiating table? Does the union fold immediately, or do they try one final push for revenue sharing? And more importantly, how does Caitlin Clark handle this when the deal gets announced? Does she stay quiet, or does she make it obvious she was right from the beginning? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you think the Players Association played this situation correctly, explain your reasoning, because from where I'm sitting, they're about to learn a very expensive lesson about the difference between actual leverage and pure wishful thinking.